and say hi and welcome everyone to RMPP's final facilitator Zoom call, but not the final ever action group facilitator call, because Beef and Lamb New Zealand action groups will be taking over from the 1st of April. And so your friendly extension managers like Briar and Maria and others will be around and available. So hence why we've got Briar and Maria on the call today. And thank you both. Maria, I know you've got microphone issues, so we'll just see how we go. And John, I think, is in a meeting just in the other room, so I'm assuming he'll join us when he's finished there. Briar, did you have any update on that? No? No, okay, we might need to go and knock and find out in a bit, but that's all good, because as with any facilitator call, it's important just to spend a brief amount of time introducing each other. So we've got enough people that I'm going to send you into a couple of breakout rooms, and I'm just going to make sure everyone can do that. So I am going to get you to head into breakout rooms, and what I'd love you to share is just to say hi, where you are, and how your action groups that you're involved with, and are they going forward beyond the RMPP funding? So heading into April and Beef and Lamb New Zealand action groups taking over, are they keeping on going? What's the plan? So I'm going to send you off into rooms now just for 2 or 3 minutes. So don't spend heaps of time, but just good to take the chance to say hi to everybody. So here we go. Sorry, Courtney, I just bumped you around, so hopefully you should be able to join now.
Okay. There's nothing coming up though.
If you go down to your breakout room, there's a button on the bottom. Have you got a breakout room button? Yeah, you should be able to bring it up and join. Yeah, no worries. Excellent. Welcome back, everyone. I think that's good. And Maria, have you solved your issues or not? You were coming up on my screen looking like you're all good. Hopefully you have. All right. Hopefully you've had a bit of a chance to get a sense of who's on the call. What I'm going to do is just recreate some rooms and mix you up again. I'd love you to head back and get the chance to meet hopefully a couple of different people. But what's your biggest question? Have a quick discussion. What's the biggest question you've got as we move from RMPP into Beef and Lamb New Zealand Action Group? So what would you like to really know? And when we come back from that breakout room, I'll get you to share those questions and we'll start the discussion from there. So any questions or comments on that? No. And Briar, could I ask you not to accept the invitation and just stay with me, please? Cool. Alrighty. So, biggest question you've got, what's the one thing you really want to find out about? Have a quick chat in your discussion room, breakout room, and then we'll come back and we'll go around and ask away. Cool.
Have I been naughty?
No, I'm panicking. Actually, I'm going to keep recording. Hopefully that worked. Yeah, so if you've got any big question for action groups beyond end of March, have a think about what that is, and I'll be getting people to share that shortly.
Okay, I'll just wait and see what everyone else comes up with. See if it's
Cool. No worries. Are you on a phone or on your laptop?
I'm on my laptop for now, but it might not last the hour. So
no worries. Know what it's like with power and stuff. But that's all good.
right, so while you're doing that, can I just ask you if my farmer been in to sign off their plan yet that I chucked in there the other day?
No, I just flicked you an email to ask whether or not you had managed to get Sarah to submit it because it hasn't come through.
I put it in there and I sent her a message. Can you please sign it off?
Okay.
Okay. I'll chase her up tonight.
All right, cool. Thank you. That would be helpful because, yeah. Also, Forest 360.
You got it, Denise. Requesting swan plants. She's obviously going to kill off her caterpillars.
Oh dear. Oh yeah.
I think quite like an urgent email to make you check it.
That's right, exactly. All right, we're going to bring everyone back shortly. It's very picturesque where you are, Sean.
Ellerslie Racecourse is where I am.
Oh, okay. Not as picturesque as I was thinking then.
I've done a picturesque last week down your way, actually.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
You've been up to Mount Lyford ski thing. The road is just Genevieve was just shitting herself. Rental car hard not quite made it up there. I got there in the end, but I've got a flat tyre going up.
Oh dear.
Last time I went up there, it was in a bus.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's not much
holding. Corner of the edge.
Yeah, not much holding up.
Oh, got a bit.
Cut off. You're in full fright.
I was having a rant.
No, it was really interesting. And I agree. I mean, yeah.
All good. All righty. So what I am going to do is bring up the whiteboard So hopefully you can all see the whiteboard. What I'd love you to do is if you should be able to annotate it. So it'll either be on a drop down next to the sharing button or on the 3 little dots at the end of your, yep, Courtney's found it. And you can flick on text. Yep, okay, John Stanchell's there. So from each breakout room, what I'd love to know is what was your question? Or maybe you had a couple of questions. Can you jump into the whiteboard and put on the question that either you brought up in your breakout room, or maybe your breakout room decided on one big question. So if you can jump on the whiteboard and start typing out any questions that you had. Cool. Other funding options there are for groups. Thanks, Nick. What other questions came up?
How do I get to the whiteboard, Denise?
Sorry, Chris?
How do I get to the whiteboard?
3 dots, and you should be able to have an annotate option, and that will give you a little floating text, floating bar that says text, along with lots of other things, and will give you the ability to draw on the whiteboard.
If you can't see the whiteboard at all, it must be tucked in behind your one of your other tabs.
Yes.
Where do I find these 3 dots?
So you're on your floating menu bar. It'll either probably be up the top. And there's 3 dots on the end of the bar.
Not sure what I.
It might look like it might say view options with a down arrow if you
yes.
if you move your mouse up to the top of the screen.
Good, thank you, Courtney. Does that help, Eve, or not really?
Oh, I'm still struggling here, sorry.
So when you've got your menu bar, if you found that, and there's a little thing that says Denise's screen sharing.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Is there anything else that you talked about? There's a great lot of questions here. Cool. Yep.
Can someone please add it for me, because I can't figure it out. I'd like to, well, we've discussed it, but it might be of interest to others. Do you need an approved facilitator?
Nice. I'll chuck that on for you. Do you need an approved facilitator? Oh. I'm just going to move a few things around. It's not top or bottom, just making sure everyone can see. All right, any last questions? No? Cool. All righty. Well, let's start going around. Oh, hang on. I'm just going to make sure that I can see the one up here. I'm just going to move that one down here so I can see it rather than it being under my menu bar. All right. Okay. All right, so there's some questions around what does support look like going forward, support for facilitators, funding options, other funding options for groups, the online platform, the action group website and pages, the group dashboard, so some of that nitty-gritty around the system, options available for including non-agricultural landowners, these are great questions. Can we have access to the Zoom catch-up recordings? Also good. Ongoing access to experts. Beef and lamb guidelines developed to ensure action networks don't morph into their existing programs. One-off funding, the criteria for the 2000, and the level of engagement going forward. So, yep, some great questions. So, where are we going to start? What stands out? Brendan and Briar, anywhere that you think we should start particularly? I'm going to throw to you guys to give me a bit of help here. Any thoughts on where you'd like to start?
There seems to be lots of questions about continued facilitator support.
Yes, yes. So do we want to start there? Cool. Let's start there with what we can add at the moment. So, Briar, any thoughts? Well, first of all, that Beef and Lamb has committed to supporting facilitators as we go, going forwards. I was just going to bring up the email that went out today and just double check if there was anything that I can add. No, okay, that's all good. So there's some specific questions though, and I can see John is running around and he is about to jump online hopefully, so he might be able to give us a steer on some of these questions. But basically the idea was that there would be support from extension managers in your various regions going forward. So Briar, is there anything you'd like to say at this point about what that looks like, or Maria? Like meetings like these, that kind of stuff.
We probably won't have the capacity to support you exactly the same as it has been in the past. Yep. John, now that he's joined us, might be able to comment a bit further once he's sort of had a chance to read the questions.
No worries.
Just due to the fact that we do have full workloads already and this is getting added in, but we will do our best. Yep.
That was definitely been the commitment. Hi, John. Welcome.
G'day, Denise. Apologies for lateness. I was dealing with something else.
Yeah, no, I know. I realized as we started, you're in another meeting, so all good. So these are just the questions that have come forward. Everyone went into breakout rooms and we've got particular questions, like number one questions for Beef and Lamb action groups beyond from 1st of April. So we've started with the facilitator support. Yep. And there's some questions there about what the support looks like, and running facilitator courses, and also whether you need to have an approved facilitator. So do you mind jumping straight in? Is that okay?
Yeah, good timing, eh? Right into the frying pan.
That's right.
Yeah, so I suppose if we that one, the approved facilitator, the thing around the facilitator courses, they're all sort of there as well. So if we look at the success of action groups over the last 3 years and through the pilot, we recognise that facilitation is a real key part of the success. So we want to also ensure that there is an agreed, or agreed is really the right word, but we need to make sure there's a standard of facilitation provided to farmers. So and that then sort of fits in with that facilitator courses. So yes, we will be running some more. We tried to run some more just recently. So we had one in Palmerston North on the 16th, 17th of March, and there was one down here in Christchurch on the 23rd, 24th of March. And that was really, I suppose, a focus on those was to mop up the facilitators that have been doing work for Beef and Lamb, that we wanted them to have made sure that they've done the LF course. So beyond 1st of April, we will run some more, but it hasn't been a focus in the immediate term for us at this stage. So we'll be doing that.
Awesome. So John, I guess what I'm hearing is that if people are hearing that there's facilitator or groups that are nominating a facilitator and they don't think they've been on the course, then they should get in touch with you and the extension manager in their area to say, hey, we might have someone to go on a course, and so we can start gathering names.
Yeah. So what the team's doing at the moment, and Brendan messaged me again this morning. So we've got a list of people that we communicated with for these March ones, and we didn't get everyone available to those, but we'll add to that list. And when we get the time to run some more courses and work out how we go about doing that, we'll communicate with those people again.
Nice. And Brian,
probably one little change there with it, that it will be user pays, so we won't be funding it as a levy paid organisation. So that will be one subtle change. I suppose the cost of those courses have been around $500-600, so it'll be a bit of personal development, I suppose, for people to invest in terms of their development over time, but that's probably the main change. But we won't be making it a money making effort on our behalf.
John, will you run not just courses for people starting facilitation or kicking in, but sort of ones that will be good for us to refresh or get some new techniques?
Yeah, good question, Nicola. I suppose that sort of falls under that facilitator support on an ongoing basis. So if I look at what Denise and the team have done over the last 12 months, and particularly since COVID, there's been these online forums that we've put on. So which I think have been, managed to sneak on a few of them. So I think that's probably where we'll head in the initial phase around how we provide that support. They're effective because people don't obviously have to travel. You can catch them wherever you are, and whether we look to record them and distribute them, we haven't quite worked some of that detail out, but that's sort of, I suppose, where we might head with some of that. But I think there's also acknowledging there's some really good other forums out there too, Nicola, likes of APEN, that run some really cool stuff. And I know that our team, the Beef and Lamb team, have been really engaged in some of that as well. So it's just, again, it's certainly an important part of what we're going to offer. And to be fair, I said that the focus has been on transitioning the program into Beef and Lamb and ensuring we close off what's been the official part properly before we jump into some of those small details.
That's cool. Hey, anybody's welcome to unmute and ask anything more about facilitator courses, or chuck it in the chat box, because I am monitoring the chat box. So whatever you prefer to do. Just before we move on, if there's anything else around facilitator training. Cool. Some other questions there then around the action group website and the dashboard. And I know that the online platform, it is going to be basically the same, John, from what we've seen. Comments on that.
So you could probably leave you to talk this one, Denise. So last week we did an online session with the Beef and Lamb regional team. So one of the things that Megan Mounsey-Smith's been working with some of our service providers on is around that platform and process, and just transitioning that from the RMPP platform into Beef and Lamb. So it will be very, very similar to what you've been used to over the past. All those historical action group pages, such as the RP directory and that stuff, will come across onto the Beef and Lamb page as well. So there'll be some, for a wee while, I think from memory, the Action Network page will be still sit there. It won't have a lot of information, but there'll be sort of links that will direct you back into the Beef and Lamb portal and pages there as well.
Yeah, so not losing anything, John. It just might be sitting in a slightly different place going forward in terms of Action Network. But as you have been doing already, going into the Beef and Lamb website as the portal to your action group, that's all the same. If your group is continuing on, then all of that historical, your previous EPs and things like that, none of that will disappear. It'll still be there for you to look at and for your group to look at. But just, going forward, you don't have to worry about, submitting invoices based on extension plan activity numbers and things like that. Which I guess then, John, brings us to the $2,000 per group per year. So let's talk about that.
So I suppose if I step back, so if we go back to when we started the program, in that first year, farm businesses were eligible for that $4,000, which they got not all up front. And then the second year was that they were going to be having to contribute that an $800 amount to actually start that process of actually self-funding. And I suppose if I look back, it's probably where we're sitting today is a bit of a challenge for us, because that would have been a good stepping stone for farmers to actually step out of that reliance on being fully funded, right? Now, we didn't go there for a number of reasons. So one, the rate of spend wasn't what was originally forecast. And the second one was, if I look at the farming community, a lot of you as facilitators were tapping into farmers that were actually prepared to give their time for no charge. So there's a bit of that paying it forward, which in some ways good, but it's also, I look at it and go, actually, it's not really a good reflection on farmers understanding the value of their time as well. So as we step towards the end of the program, it's made it harder and harder for us, I suppose, to step from that fully funded model to a self-funded model. So that's part of the reason why we've stepped it from $4,000 per farm business down to that $2,000 per group. So it's trying to take them, I suppose, from an intensive care, which we've been under with the 4,000 per farm business, to just that support to that self-funded model. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. In terms of the criteria, we're going to be asking for an extension plan, which you're all well au fait with delivering, and the team, our regional team, have been up to speed, or brought up to speed hopefully last week, just around what are the criteria around the extension plan. And then it's that evaluation of the 10th month anniversary. So a lot of this stuff shouldn't be new to you. We've been communicating some of this stuff for a wee while now. So they're the key criteria. So it's not going to make it too onerous, but also we want to be able to get something back out of it. And the reason for the extension plan is really around, it's going to help the regional team, the Beef and Lamb regional team, start to be quite smart around how they direct resources. So if you've got a group that's got a focus, say, on, there's a good one, who's got an idea? Let's say it's a lamb production one. We can start directing resources to you that are actually quite focused around lamb production, rather than that shotgun approach that we've probably taken in the past. Equally, we can then highlight where there might be opportunities within our wider extension program, that there might be workshops coming up. We might be running some Feed Smart or those type of workshops that actually your group may be interested in actually attending as well. So it's actually trying to be a little bit more tailored around where we direct our resources and create that awareness of what our resources are as well.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Just a question, Denise. Just to follow on from that, we've sharpened our focus as a group. There's a possibility that where we're sharpening might result in two of the group not coming on the journey with us. So can we replace those with another two? Because we think the dynamic around that 7 to 9 groups has worked pretty well for us. So one, can we replace them? And secondly, we're doing a couple of things. We're bringing Jana Hocken down to do a follow-up on lean management, and we're looking to integrate that with other groups. So how does that prejudice our entitlement to the $2,000 where we're doing stuff in association with other groups?
Just your first question, Tony, in terms of the group dynamics and people dropping in and out, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to actually make it easier for that to happen. So the PCF, which is we'll now call the lead farmer, will be able to actually add or remove farmers in that process, and or the facilitator can too. I think I'm right in that one, Denise. I think so. That's going to provide a little bit more freedom there. In terms of, I suppose, leveraging that $2,000 with another group, fundamentally don't have an issue with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've definitely done that with some action groups have been doing that previously. So yeah, that covered everything, Tony.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, cool. Eve.
Cool.
Is the $2,000 going to get paid out on the anniversary of the 10 months of the extension plan, or is it 10 months into the transition into beef and lamb?
So good you asked that question, Eve, because I've had that a number of times, and I was going to get John just to make sure we were clear on this. So go, John.
Right, I'll try and explain it in simple terms, Eve.
Perfect.
So, and if I'm not, you tell me, right? I know you will. Yep. So let's say you had a group, one of your groups that you've been running, Eve, their extension plan ran out, or you renewed it in July last year. So July 2020, say. So in theory, your 12-month anniversary would be July 2021, right? And so as long as you your group provides an extension plan.
Ah, okay. So
Going forward for the
because
next
all my
12 months.
we've all got new extension plans. They've made a
Yep.
new plan for the next year.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
okay. So I was thinking I could just go in there and create and add a new extension plan, even though my other ones haven't expired. And
No.
then keep Denise and the team nice and busy for the next week, approving them all so that we can be first off to get the money.
Yeah. So
You need to
we've
wait to
used the
post.
historical dates, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So
That was
there will
simple
be
enough. Thank you.
Yeah, there will be some groups out there that, because the extension plans will roll over early. So, and when I say early, they'll roll over early in the beef and lamb tenure, right? So they might roll over in April, May, or June, July. Potentially, those groups could get 2 bites at the cherry in terms of that $2,000, because it runs. We've got it running through to September 2022. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So I think that's a good point though. So John, you mentioned basically to get the $2,000, you need a new extension plan for your group as per usual, what you've done before, but also the group needs to have done an evaluation, which is sent out 10 months into their current plan. So hopefully they get the, how's things going? And then at 12 months, when your plan expires, that's when you can apply to get your new $2,000. So the 10-month thing is the evaluation, not the $2,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that
makes sense?
Yeah, that's right. I'm just double checking, making sure that everybody is
pretty sure we've got that
clear.
right, Denise. If we've got it wrong, we apologise, team.
Yeah.
How's the system going to know if you're 10 months into your new plan though? Because if I'm thinking like I had to do a whole lot of new extension plans like the start of this year, late last year. So mine aren't going to come off until next year in like another 10 months time.
So they're still current in the system and they'll remain
still
current in the
and
system.
they're not going to.
Yep.
Can you create a new extension plan before your old one's expired?
You can, but the team will be able to see that you've still got an active one, and so they can't approve another one until you've finished your current one.
Okay.
You can amend your existing one. So if you've got some new activities or you've got a bit of a slight change in focus, you can amend your current one.
Yeah, no, I'm good at that.
So I guess my question is, so we're looking at a system where the group's going to manage their own money, so they'll get the $2,000 and have to manage it rather than invoices being sent in.
Correct. Yep.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So what we were trying to do there, Nicola, is essentially try and take that administrative burden off both at a farmer end and also at a beef and lamb end as well. Trying to simplify it, right?
Now, there were a couple of questions, and sorry, welcome Lab 2. I know you were turning up a bit late, but great to have you on board. Thank you. A couple of questions around this was options for one-off funding, John, and also if you've got non-ag landholders in your group, are they still okay to get the $2,000?
Okay, so I'll cover the two things. One is actually the end one might be the last one, might be the easiest one. So I suppose. Yeah, in the past, there's been some pretty strict criteria around whether you're a red meat producer and all that sort of stuff, which most should be aware of. Given that we're only putting $2,000 in at a group level, we're not so concerned by that. So if you've got, I think we were working on, no, sorry, I can't remember the number. We were looking at a number, but I think, if you've got, say, 80% of your group are, as just using this as an example, are sheep and beef or red meat producers, dairy farmers, and you've got, using a catchment context, and you've got some sort of people with a lifestyle block, that's not going to be an issue. And the other part of it was leveraging funding. So from a beef and lamb perspective, we won't be providing any other funding over and above what we're already contributing. So the $2,000 with the $2,000, but if you can leverage funding from other sources or the group can, go for it.
Oh.
So just reading the messages in the chat box, so it's basically 12 months out or at the end of a 12-month period before you get the funding. And it's really no use for doing something like getting an expert speaker in, because somebody's got to hold that cost until the end of the 12 months. Is that right?
You get the $2,000 on, then the start of your 12 months extension plan.
Not at the end of the new one.
Not at the end of the new one. So for example, John, if you were, I'm just trying to think, so Sean, sorry, you don't mind if I use you, Sean, as a bit of an example. So Sean's got an extension plan 2 sitting there that he's trying to get his lead farmer to submit at the moment because they've had some activities and he needs to get it submitted. Let's say for the sake of argument that hadn't happened and he was just in their first extension plan had expired. If he waited until the 1st of April, he could submit that extension plan and get $2,000 from Beef and Lamb New Zealand towards the action group. Yeah.
Correct.
If he submits it now, then he has to wait another year before the plan expires and he submits a new one and then the group gets the $2,000.
We have to put the new one in to get paid because the old one expired 2 days before our event, which is,
I know.
It's quite pedantic, but anyway, we'll do that.
Yes.
I'll tell the group good news.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? You're happy now, Sean?
Absolutely.
John, does that help or not?
I'm still confused. So are you saying that the 31st of March is a key date to the start and end of the timing?
Yep. So if you currently got a group in the program at the moment, the 31st of March is a key date because your activities in the current program need to have been completed and invoiced to RMPP. Well, the invoice needs to be with RMPP by the 10th of April. And the activity needs to have taken place by the close of business or the end of midnight, I suppose, on the 31st of March.
Yeah, get that bit. So no,
and so if your current extension plan, which whether or not, so disregarding no, so if that extension plan's in the system, you've completed those activities. The 12 months of that extension plan might not be up yet. It depends on when your extension plan expires. They run for 12 months from the moment they're submitted and approved. So it's that's the trigger for your $2,000, John. But it has to be post-March. So Sean couldn't put it in now and get $2,000 because it's not post-March.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at everybody's faces and going,
yeah, I'm trying to too, mate.
Ginny.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience just updating a couple of my extension plans. Mine all roll over in the winter pretty much. And as soon as I tried to put a budget against anything after the 31st of March, it wouldn't let me. The budget has to be zero. Even though for my own purposes and administering my group, I would quite like to be able to keep my budget in there, but I can't. That's okay, we can spreadsheet it, but it was just an interesting experience.
We will follow that up, Ginny, because in theory you should be able to. So I'm not quite sure what the bug in the system is there. So I will follow up on that one because you're right, that's the use of it, is being able to track it and see what you've done and spent. So
in the new system, Ginny, what we're looking to do is actually you'll be able to see what your group spent under RMPP, and going forward in the beef and lamb, you'll be able to see what you've got there as well. So you'll be able to separate out, because from a facilitation point of view, there's a whole lot of benefits here, right? So you can also go back and go, oh, who do we get to go and speak on about X, Y, Z? And you can go back and have a look in there and go, oh, we got John Stanchel, or we got Chris Brosnahan, or whoever it might be, to go and speak on that topic. So we're aiming to carry that history forward, so you can see that and separate the two.
Yeah, that'll be great, thanks, because I've been trying to work out budgets for my groups going forward, and I keep having to email Denise and say, can you please, send me a screenshot or whatever, because I can't get access to what we've spent, and it's been quite frustrating.
Yeah. No,
yes,
cool.
Actually, and you're quite right, Ginny, that will be the trigger. I think, John, I'm correct, going forward, everyone sees everything.
I think so.
Yeah, that's right. So whereas in RMPP, facilitators haven't been able to see things, whereas going forward, you'll be all good. So excellent. Alrighty. Now I'm just having a quick look to see what else.
Was there any other curly questions up there, Denise?
Yeah. So admin support for planning, have we covered that? it is down to you guys and your groups. First port of call is extension managers, John, if there's any problems.
So one of the things we're doing was with this in regards to the 0800 number. So that will be manned through to the 30th of April by the current Action Network team. So Brendan and Courtney and the team will still be there. Denise unfortunately leaves us after on Thursday morning. She's gone. But that's really because of this carryover of the existing program, right? In terms of dealing all the mop up. They will be able to help in terms of actually some of that support. So we're just working through some comms at the moment as well around those regional contacts. But once we get beyond that point, there'll be the 0800 number will still work, and you'll have some options. So if I use you, Eve, as an example, so if you've got some groups, you've got some questions, you can ring that 0800 number, or farmers can ring that 0800 number in your groups, and they can then identify, oh, it's Briar, who's my extension manager, press 64 for Briar, and you'll go through to Briar, and you'll be able to have a chat with Briar about whatever your question is. And it'll work the same for Maria in the North Island and the rest of the team. So that's the idea behind that. So trying to bring that regional focus, regional touch point into the whole program, so you've got that connection at a regional level. Gives the extension managers a really good context around what's going on in the region as well, and how they might be able to connect either groups up or technical expertise, as well as what you've got there as well.
Cool. Now, Sean dropped off, but he was all good. I was just going to very quickly say access to Zoom recordings are all on the RMPP video YouTube channel at the moment. I just need to confirm, John, that is still going to be available. As far as I know, it's not being wiped or anything.
I don't know, actually, Denise. It's a good one to actually think about. I wonder whether it's on our radar. We might not have captured that one, but we can still capture it.
Yep, absolutely. So I will follow that up, as part of it, because I think that's a good point there. I've had a number of people say that they'd like to get this recording just to hear what was discussed. So I'll chase up with that. But at the moment, they're still on the RMPP YouTube channel, so you can do it. Now, John, a bit of a tricky question here, but I think it's a good one. Have Beef and Lamb got the guidelines developed to ensure Action Network doesn't morph into their existing programs? So did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, that is a goodie. I suppose if I look at our extension framework, there's a way to sort of frame that up. So we see that sort of small group learning, all the benefits from the Action Network model being retained in the future. A key part of supporting farmers with change, whether it be around production or whether it be dealing with some of these regulatory changes as well. So we're pretty clear that it's going to be there for the long term at this stage, but no reason not to. So that's, I suppose, answering that one there. So it's about how do we use the model and the framework that's been developed over the last 5 or 6 years and before that with the pilot, and take that into the future. And we've got some ideas and some thoughts around how we keep building on it, but it'll just take a bit of time to develop some of that stuff.
Any further questions or comments on that before we leave it, just to make sure that we've covered it well? Anyone wants to jump in? Cool.
I'm not sure whether silence is a good thing sometimes.
There is that. Now, just having another quick look to make sure that we so we've talked a bit about what some of that support and engagement looks like via the training, the online processes, the criteria, which is much less than, doesn't look quite the same as RMPP. There's this ongoing access to experts. I just wanted to check in, ongoing access to experts, who had that one in particular, and was there something in there that you wanted to check in on? Because we don't mind which experts you use, as long as the group's deciding. So if anyone wants to elaborate on that, please unmute.
I'll just make a comment, Denise, on that one. I suppose, I know it's come up with the team as well as a question, is that under RMPP, it's been very much farmer needs, farmer driven, right, farmer led. And there's this, I suppose, potentially a perceived or real conflict that we've got as an organisation. And if you think of things like in the environment space around policy and stuff like that, we, as an organisation, we made some pretty clear positions around where we'll steer the ship on some of these policy decisions. So there's just potentially a conflict, right? That we end up with, I'll use you, Lab, as an example, because you're sitting there very pensive and looking very smart. So Lab Wilson might have a particular view on these freshwater regulations, and Ginny Dudunsky goes, actually, hey, let's get this guy Lab Wilson along to talk to our group, but his views might be completely at odds with beef and lambs. So it's how do we manage that tension? And it's a really good one to throw out there, because I don't necessarily know the answer, but it's now that we've got beef and lamb branding, or potentially going to have beef and lamb branding on this, is how, what's the view that we have of someone like Lab Wilson all of a sudden turning up with a counter view of beef and lamb. But I suppose at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, if this is farmer led and it's farmer driven, then it's about how do you as a facilitator also manage those conversations as well, to ensure there is balance there as well. So I'm not sure whether there's a right or wrong answer, but it's going to, I suppose, for us as an organisation, we're going to need to manage and balance that tension internally with some of our people. But I just sort of just throw it out there as an example of something that could cause some angst for some.
Not thinking of Lab in particular, but Myanmar have got quite a good strategy on that.
I don't think it's politically correct to use that strategy, Tony, in New Zealand.
It's true, not the best. Alrighty.
But that's the other thing on the experts too there, Denise, is I think, is this, you've all got really cool networks of people with expertise that are out there, but the other option is also to use your local extension manager, because there's often people within beef and lamb that we can tap into as well, that we can provide for groups at no cost. So there's one good way of actually tapping into some expertise to help groups on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. And I think we mentioned that the directory will still be there. So
correct.
You will, yeah, that's right. So the RP directory will still be available. And if you're used to using that as a source, then it will still be there. So cool. Alrighty, we're heading towards 4 o'clock, so I'm conscious of time. Would love you to unmute if there is any other big burning question or comment that you have before we go into some wrap up.
Yes, so
go, John.
Apologies if you've got some documents somewhere that I haven't seen. I haven't seen this, but just talking about the extension policies and extension plans from beef and lamb. So without too much resource, what changes are you intending to provide or bring about?
Sorry, John, what we don't quite understand your question.
So if you're saying that you've got some extension policies or you're involved in the extension sector, what are the changes that you're looking to bring about?
In regards to Action Network?
Well, I mean, extension needs some sort of an outcome to be working towards, doesn't it?
Maybe, is this, John, that action groups sit under the farming excellence strategy, and so we'll feed into that? Is that maybe what you're getting at, John, the bigger picture?
They are part of our extension offering, so we're looking, we've been pretty clear around where they fit within our extension program. So our farming excellence strategy articulates that in terms of where an action group or action groups sit in our strategy.
As far as group extension plans go, John, there's no change in focus as far as what's going to be approved or not in that. It's just going to carry on as is.
Yeah, largely. Yep. No real changes there.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. All righty. Briar, I think I just wanted to check in with you just because you did say you guys have got heaps on your plate, and so it's not quite like the 0800 number to Courtney has been, but you're still around, and so if groups are in your area, you are keen to hear. I guess just a final thought. Yeah.
Yeah, look, we are really keen to support. Some of us have been more involved in action groups over the last few years than others. Some of us have run groups, so a few of us do understand the inner workings. We are really keen to support. However, we won't be sitting there waiting for calls. So just have a bit of patience. We are often on the road for weeks at a time. So if we take a couple of days to get back to you, just have a little bit of understanding. We probably have a huge backlog of phone calls and things like that. So it will be a little bit different compared to having Courtney and the resources that you've had up until now. So yeah, would really appreciate a little bit of understanding there if we do take a bit of time to get back to you. Yeah, but we are definitely here to support, and we do have great networks within the rural professional space, so we might be able to suggest experts in that you haven't previously thought of, or we'll be across what quite a few of the groups are doing, so we'll be able to connect you up hopefully, so that you can work together or tie in experts together like many of you have been. So yeah, but we are busy.
Absolutely, but it's a really good point, Brian, because like you and Maria and Jason and Olivia, I'm thinking particularly, and probably Mark as well, have been involved in groups, so you do understand the system and some of the processes and stuff. So that's important that you actually do get it. So, and you've been part of it. Awesome. Now, I have checked with Maria. I'm not being rude and not throwing to her, but she's assured me that she's all good. So we're all good. John, any final last comment that you'd like to make?
I think from my perspective, look, we've seen the value in Action Network and the model. So we really, it's going to be a really big part of what we're doing in the future. And it's about how do we take what we've had over the last 3, 4, 5 years and actually continue to grow it and adapt it. And those of you out there that have been involved with it will often have some really good ideas as well. So I encourage you to engage with us and provide us feedback. It is a different phase, I suppose. We've going from this fully funded model to a different model, which is going to be a challenge for some. But again, it's about what can we do to make it easy for farmers to engage and support them with some key areas around practice change, whether it be production or particularly at the moment around environmental challenges and regulation as well. So yeah, keen to see you all involved still and engage with us. So yeah, all the best. And if you've got any questions here, feel free to reach out to us.
That's awesome. Thank you, John. Now I did notice, apologies, I'm just doing a quick scan, that Ginny, you did unmute before. So was there a final question that you had?
More of a comment maybe. In the old Monitor Farm days, we would have Monitor Farm conferences every so often where all the groups caught up. Yeah. And that was so good for learning and getting people sharing ideas. And I'm just wondering whether there's any scope to do that with our RNPP groups in the future.
It's a good question, Ginny. One of the things we want to try and utilise is in likes of Briar's region as an example. We run a Farm Smart conference. So what we want to try and do is utilise some of those existing forums that we've got, that groups can either come together and not only connect, but also to share some of those learnings as well. So most of the regions have something like that. So Ag Innovation is in Palmerston North in a couple of weeks' time. Maria, you've got a Farm Smart event in your patch, I think, in early May, I think it is, and Briar's one's in June. And then normally in Southland, there's a progressive ag one, and it's at late July, August. So we will look to utilise some of those existing forums that we've got and just add some of this in. So it's not necessarily about doing new stuff, but it's about using what we've currently got as well. But yeah, we've also talked about at a regional level, Ginny, about connecting you guys as facilitators with the regional team on a regular basis, and the same with some of those lead farmers, just to, I suppose, share the knowledge, the learning, and where people have got challenges, you can share those. And this is an example of this today. Is got a good forum of people who are really engaged and wanting to share their experiences and learn more. So this is something we'll look to try and do as well and build on.
That's cool. And so, yeah, my takeaway from that is definitely talk to your extension manager if you're like, I've got these groups and they'd be keen to be involved. Briar, and then I'm going to throw to Nick and then Eve, because, yeah, go, Briar.
I just wanted to quickly say that we've already thought about that action group thing and how we can incorporate it in our Farm Smart conference this year. So that I have contacted a couple of facilitators to get farmers along that can talk about how action groups have helped them make on-farm change. And then we're going to talk about all the changes coming at us. So there are things, in the pipeline. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Briar. Nick.
I just had a comment. I just want to say a huge thank you, Denise and Lab and everyone else involved in Action Network. It's been amazing. Truly phenomenal. I've only been involved for 18 months or so, but it's been amazing. Huge support and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick, and right back at you, because it's people like you guys that have made it all worthwhile, and we know have been crucial in getting groups like humming and making them effective. So thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. It's been amazing experience. Eve.
My point was along the same vein as Nick's. I just wanted to say thanks so much to the whole RNPP team. It's been awesome. Feel very lucky. Straight out of Lincoln, the first thing I did was be your guinea pig on the extension program and how to become a facilitator. So very grateful for that opportunity and wish you all well. Thanks so much. I think you've created an amazing legacy and look forward to taking it forward and working with the team at Beef and Lamb to keep her humming.
Absolutely. That's the really cool thing, is we want to see what it morphs and changes into and the things that get better and better. And yeah, thanks, Eve. Awesome. Well, it is 4:01 and I do like to finish these. So I am going to call it. So thank you so much for coming along. I can only say again, I know you guys have been doing all the heavy lifting and making action groups actually happen and hum. And so thank you for that. And yeah, watch the space and we'll be in touch. Beef and Lamb, others will be in touch and keep this going. So thank you, John. Thank you, Maria and Briar too, especially for being part of this and helping us move forward. So yeah, if you've got more questions, we'll stay on the line for a bit longer. But yeah, we'll call it there. Thank you.